One shot. That's not a battle cry. That's an engineering requirement. When the United States Air Force sat down to design the F-22 Raptor, they didn't start with speed, they didn't start with weapons, they started with a single brutal mathematical question. What does it cost in dollars, in risk and lives, to put this aircraft in a real fight? And when they ran those numbers, the answer changed everything about how the jet was built. Stay with me, because the math behind this machine is unlike anything you've heard before. Let's start where most people don't. Not with the price tag, not with the kill count, but with the doctrine. In the late 1980s, American air combat strategists were staring at a problem. Soviet air defenses were evolving fast, enemy radar systems were getting longer range, surface-to-air missiles were getting smarter, and the United States Air Force realized something uncomfortable. In a future high-end conflict, getting to the fight would be just as dangerous as the fight itself. So they built a solution around one doctrine, 3 words that define every single design decision on the F-22. First look, first shot, first kill. What that means in practice is this: the Raptor must detect, engage, and destroy an enemy aircraft before that enemy ever knows the Raptor exists. Not faster, not more maneuverable, invisible first. This is where the math begins. An aircraft that is never detected cannot be targeted. An aircraft that cannot be targeted cannot be shot down, and an aircraft that cannot be shot down can engage at will with near zero attrition risk. On paper, that sounds like an advantage. In reality, it is the most expensive engineering problem ever solved in aviation history. The F-22's radar cross-section, the measurement of how visible an aircraft appears on enemy radar, is roughly equivalent to a metal marble, in an aircraft that weighs 83,000 pounds fully loaded. That number didn't happen by accident, it happened because of thousands of hours of computational modeling, radar absorbent materials engineered at the molecular level, and an airframe geometry specifically calculated to deflect radar energy away from its source. Every curve, every panel edge, every weapons bay door mathematically optimized to make this aircraft disappear. That is what the doctrine demanded, and that is what the price tag reflects. Now let's talk about the number on the thumbnail. $100 million. That is the unit cost of a single F-22 Raptor, but here's what most people get wrong: that number is almost meaningless on its own. The real number, the one that makes Pentagon officials quietly uncomfortable, is the program cost per aircraft. When you take the entire F-22 program development, testing, infrastructure, the works, and divide it across the 187 aircraft actually produced, you arrive at something closer to $334 million per jet. Let that settle for a moment. $334 million per aircraft. But we're still not done, because buying the jet is only the beginning. The F-22 costs approximately $85,000 per flight hour to operate. That figure covers fuel, maintenance, labor, parts, and the extraordinary logistical chain required to keep a 5th-generation stealth aircraft combat ready. And here is the number that defines everything: the maintenance ratio. For every single flight hour the F-22 logs in the air, it requires approximately 30 hours of maintenance on the ground. 30 to 1. That ratio exists because of exactly what we just discussed: that stealth coating, those radar absorbent materials. They are extraordinarily effective, and they are extraordinarily fragile. Every mission, every landing technicians physically inspect and repair the stealth surface at the panel level. So when you ask, what does $100 million buy you? The answer is the most maintenance-intensive, operationally complex, lethally effective air superiority platform ever placed in military service. It does not come cheap. It was never designed to. Now here is where the brutal mathematics truly begin. Imagine a near-peer conflict, the South China Sea, Taiwan Strait. Take your pick, the strategists have. The F-22 is tasked with establishing air superiority on day one. Its job is to find, engage, and eliminate enemy 4th and 5th generation fighters before they can threaten strike packages or naval assets below. Simple enough until you run the exchange ratio math. An exchange ratio is the cold calculation of how many enemy aircraft one of your aircraft destroys before it is lost. In Vietnam, American fighters averaged a ratio of roughly 24 to 1, meaning for every American jet lost, 24 enemy jets were destroyed. The F-22 in exercise after exercise, simulation after simulation, has achieved exchange ratios that are almost difficult to publish with a straight face. In a 2016 red flag exercise, F-22s flying against aggressor aircraft simulating advanced threats achieved a ratio estimated at 108 to 1. 108 to 1. That is not a combat aircraft, that is a mathematical anomaly. But here is the number that sharpens everything. The United States operates 186 combat-coded F-22 F-22 Raptors. 186. China currently fields over 1,500 combat aircraft. Russia fields over 1,100. So the exchange ratio math works devastatingly in the Raptor's favor, but the inventory math creates a strategic ceiling that no exchange ratio can fully overcome. Lose 10 Raptors in the opening days of a high-end conflict, and you have lost over 5% of your entire F-22 fleet. Lose 20 and air superiority doctrine begins to strain at the edges. That is the combat calculation, and that is why every single mission profile for the F-22 is built obsessively around one principle: don't get shot at ever. Here is where this video earns its title. The F-22 Raptor is by every measurable metric the most capable air superiority fighter ever built. That is not opinion, that is the conclusion of every independent defense analysis conducted in the last 2 decades. And yet the United States has never once fired an air-to-air missile from an F-22 in actual combat. Not once. The jet has flown strike missions over Syria, dropping GPS-guided munitions on ground targets, but its primary mission, air-to-air combat against a capable adversary, has never been tested in live conditions. And there is a reason for that. Deploying the F-22 against a near-peer adversary, China, Russia, carries a risk calculation that goes far beyond the exchange ratio, because the F-22 carries inside it something more valuable than its weapons payload. It carries secrets: the stealth geometry, the radar processing architecture, the electronic warfare signature, the sensor fusion algorithms. Every one of those systems represents decades of American engineering advantage, and if even one Raptor goes down in a high-end conflict, adversary recovery teams will be on that wreckage within hours. In 2015, defense analysts estimated that a single recovered F-22 airframe could accelerate Chinese stealth development by 10 to 15 years. So the uncomfortable truth is this: the most powerful fighter jet on Earth is partially held back not by any enemy but by the catastrophic intelligence value of its own technology. The math of using it must account not just for the $334 million airframe, but for the incalculable cost of what the enemy learns if it falls. So let's return to where we started. One shot. Now you understand what those 2 words actually mean. The F-22 Raptor was not built to fight long wars of attrition. It was not built to absorb hits and keep flying. It was not built for the kind of sprawling, sustained air campaign that defined the 20th century. It was built to make the first shot so precise, so invisible, so mathematically certain that there is no second shot required from either side. The entire $334 million investment, the 30-to-1 maintenance ratio, the molecular level stealth engineering, the first look, first kill doctrine, all of it converges on a single strategic concept: deterrence through mathematical certainty. The F-22 does not need to fight a war to win one. It needs to be real enough, capable enough, and lethal enough that no adversary ever runs the math and likes what they find. Because when you run the numbers on facing an F-22 Raptor in its own environment, the math comes back with the same answer every time: one shot, there's won't be enough, yours will. And in the cold, brutal calculus of modern air warfare, that is the only equation that matters. The F-22 program was closed at 187 aircraft, a fraction of the 750 originally planned. Some call that a failure of procurement, others call it a deliberate strategic signal. Next video we run the numbers on what American air power actually looks like if the F-22 fleet is ever depleted in a real conflict. The answer is not comfortable. If this breakdown gave you something new, drop a comment below with one number from this video that genuinely surprised you. I read every single one. And if you think the F-22's era is already over or just beginning, let's argue that out below.